Hi and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Breffney Early and you're listening to episode 209 of the podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in association with the local enterprise office in Leitrim and specifically their services that are there to support small and medium-sized enterprises across the county to get back up and running again after the COVID lockdown. Specifically, I want to mention their online trading voucher, which until the end of September permits you to get a 90% grant up to €2,500 towards the cost of generating or renovating your online presence to try and build business from an online source into your enterprise. If you want to know more about that, please get in touch either with themselves in terms of the local enterprise office in Leitrim, but if you want help in starting on that path and working out where you can develop a website or a product that will generate you business online, we'd love to help you with that here at Leitrim Daily. We're working with a couple of clients on their web presences at the moment, and we'd love to help you do the same. Get in touch, info@leitrimdaily.com, and we'd be more than happy to help you in that direction towards growing your business online from that online trading voucher, again with the local enterprise office in Leitrim. Thank you so much to them for their support of the show. Now, we are of course talking sport today. We'll be talking about all of the action that took place up and down the county over the last couple of days. Plenty of activity taking part. We had the return of ladies football with action in all three adult championships, senior, intermediate and junior, all had a full series of games this weekend, while in the men's competition, second round of the senior and intermediate championships took place, while the junior competition kicked off yesterday afternoon. Plenty of big games, some one-sided, some very one-sided games across all grades and both genders of the sport here in the county, but some entertaining games nonetheless, and some really, really big talking points out of the weekend. I think the biggest talking point, and a huge congratulations to Leitrim GAA for their live streaming that took place on Saturday evening from Ballinamore. Now, I know they had done a test run of it the previous weekend in, I think, association with Ocean, and Martin McGowan and John Lynch did the commentary, and it went really, really well. But I think by all accounts, I didn't personally see it because I was at games, but by all accounts, the streaming on Saturday evening was the success story of the championship so far. So fantastic to see that endeavour, and hopefully continues through the championship and really allows people to get to games even when they can't get to games. It is a very distant second best from actually being at a game. There's nothing quite like being in the ground and soaking up that atmosphere. But if you, in this world where we can't at the moment be in these kind of situations, it's great to have it brought into our living rooms and onto our phones or wherever we may find ourselves all over the world. So kudos to everybody involved in that, from Leitrim GAA, from John Lynch, Martin McGowan, the commentators, and everybody involved behind the scenes for bringing that in. I think Brian Blake was probably involved in that as well. So a huge step forward for the county board. A huge congratulations to them for how well it worked, and the production values seem to have been really, really top notch, which is great to see. Some other good news, I suppose, over the weekend was, of course, the ladies football championship. So many of the clubs involved in that competition have rowed in behind the All In for Aina campaign, and a large number of the gates collected at championship games in the ladies code this weekend were donated towards that cause. We've talked about it before on the show. We won't drag it up again, but it is a 17-month-old child who is very, very sick with leukemia, and Aina's mother, Yvonne, a former player with St. Joseph's over there in Aughawillan and Carrigallen, and his grandparents, Brigids and Eamon, would have been founding members of the club there, the current county champion. So lovely to see the whole ladies football community really row behind that family and that club and that campaign. Our thoughts obviously continue to be with the Brady family and the Caffrey family as they get through that very, very difficult time. Some strange news coming out of the second round of Senior Football Championship, and that was the rumours emanating from St. Mary's over the weekend that their manager had parted ways with the club. Denis Connerton, of course, brought in at the start of the season, and the atmosphere was strange at the end of the game on Saturday evening. What happened at the final whistle was the team congregated in the corner of the pitch. The management were in the dugout. There was a kind of procession down from the dugout to the team, a short exchange, and then the management team left. We tried to get them for comment, but there was nobody would speak to us on the record. The players too, nobody would come on the record and actually have a conversation with us about it. So off the record, we were told by a number of sources 3 or 4 people confirmed that the manager had indicated he was stepping away from the position. Whether that or not that actually holds through the week remains to be seen. But at the moment, the indications are that he won't be involved going forward, but that could all change. These situations, I suppose, are not uncommon in Gaelic games, and we'll see how it materialises and who's in the line for them in their next championship game. But all is not well at the moment. A poor performance on Saturday evening, and I suppose maybe a knee-jerk reaction. We'll see what happens as that story develops over the next week or two. In terms of the actual football, though, plenty of action across all grades, as we mentioned. We'll go through the results very quickly, and then we'll kind of break down. We've about 15 guests on the show today, so we'll talk through each of the games as we go through, and we'll hear from people who are involved in all of those games. Some strange things happening. This water break thing, I just don't get it. You're out in a game, been at so many games over the last 2 weekends, and the water breaks in the middle of the halves, they just seem crazy at this point. Like, it could be absolutely lashing out. There's more water coming out of the sky than there is in the water bottles, and yet we're taking a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in some cases, water break. It just seems to break the flow of the game, and it's effectively now a 3 or 4 quarter game rather than 2 halves, which does allow managers that opportunity to get players in and kind of have a chat, and it changes the very fundamentals of the game. I'm not that big a fan of it. If the day is absolutely scorching, if it's a beautiful July or August day over the next couple of months, fine, but I don't think they're necessary in certain games. I just don't see the point. We'll also talk a little bit about substitutions. I know we touched on it over the last 2 shows because of eligibility rules and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. It comes up again in a couple of circumstances later in the programme. So plenty to talk about today. There's also a little bit of soccer. We did mention that Sligo Rovers in action, Niall Moran featured for them. Derval Byrne of Mohill also involved with Peamount United. They played Galway in a double-header. Sligo and Peamount provided the opposition for live-streamed games on Saturday afternoon and evening. Manor Rangers also in action this weekend. They had a good win against MCR. We'll talk about that later in the programme. Let's get into the actual results of the weekend. We'll fly through the results of each of the codes before we go back and look at the games in detail. In terms of the senior men's football championship, the Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship, Group 1, Shauna Heslin's 10 points, Aughawillan 7 points, St Mary's Kiltard 7 points, Mohill GAA Club 2-14. While in Group 2 of the Senior Football Championship over the weekend, Glencar Manor 14 points, Drumreilly 1-8, Melvin Gales 1-15, Allen Gales 1-10. In the Women's Senior Football Championship, wins for Ballinamore Shauna Heslin's against St Brigids 3-20 to no score, unfortunately there for St Brigids. St Francis 4 points, Glencar Manor 6-17, Kiltubbard 4 points, St Joseph's 1-12. So some very one-sided games in the Senior Ladies Football Championship this year, sponsored of course by Gotham Drywall in New York. So some interesting results. We'll go down to the intermediate ones before we kind of get bogged down into actual results as yet. In the Intermediate Football Championship, in Group 1, the Smith Monumental sponsored championship, in Group 1, Drumkeerin 1-16, Aughawillan 4 points, Bornacoola 1-11, Eslin 2-4, while in Group 2 of the championship, Anaduff 1-13, Carrigallen 8 points, Dromahare 1-14, Kiltubbard 2-10. So 1 point victory for Dromahare there. Another narrow defeat by Kiltubbard. That's 2 1 point defeats so far for Kiltubbard in that intermediate championship grade. In terms of the junior championship in the men's competitions, Glencar and Kilty got a walkover when Carrigallen failed to field a team. That was a game we had hoped to get to. We ended up over at the other game in the other group, then the Shauna Heslin's game. We'll come to that in a second. Glencar Manorhampton 3-6, Clune 1-15, a 3 point victory for Clune in the second game in Group 1, which leaves obviously Glencar and Kilty and Clune at the top of the table after one round of games. In Group 2, in the Vistamed Junior A Football Championship, Shauna Heslin's 5-21, Aughawillan 1 point, while St Mary's Kiltard got a good result against Anaduff 3-8 to 5 points to join them at the top of the table in that competition. Now, in the ladies' intermediate championships, there were wins for Mohill and St Mary's Kiltard in that competition. Anaduff 1-6, Mohill 9-11. While in the other game in that group, St Mary's Kiltard 5-11, Kielder Gales 4-7, a real humdinger of a game. there, a nice competitive game. There weren't that many of them across the weekend, especially in the lower codes of the ladies' game. In the junior championship, Glencar, Manor and Drumkeerin played out a really entertaining draw. 11 goals in all, 5-10 to Manor Hamilton, 6-7 to Drumkeerin. That, of course, is Manor Hamilton's second team. And St. Joseph's B, 11-10, St. Francis B, 2-6. So loads of goals, loads of action across all of the championships. Now, one other soccer result over the weekend. Locally, Manor Rangers played MCR, and that was 2-0 to Manor Rangers on a Sunday morning in the B Park. Goals from Jeremy Giblin and Paul Logan put them 4 points clear at the top of the Super League, albeit with 2 games more played. So still a little bit to go in the run-in for that title. It's definitely advantage to Carbery, but Manor keeping the pressure up and keep winning their games and make Carbery go and win the title rather than hand it to them. It's really, really good to see. Some other results across the weekend with Leitrim interest were those 2 fixtures in Terryland Park on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Sligo Rovers with the visitors. Niall Moran played the 90 minutes. 2-0 win for Sligo Rovers there. 2 goals from Rona Coughlin, 1 in each half. First from the penalty spot, and the second a lovely dinked effort over the goalkeeper for a 2-0 victory against Galway United, while Galway Women's FC hosted Peamount United, including Derval Byrne of Mohill, and Peamount ran out winners there 4-1 in that particular game. They're, of course, preparing for their Women's Champions League exploits in the next couple of weeks, so the best of luck to Derval and to her teammates as they prepare for that particular adventure. We will, of course, be featuring that on the show as we go on. Last bit of soccer news, and that is Carricktown are holding trials for their adult team. They're in the second division of the Sligo Leitrim League, the Premier Division as it's called. They have new management, and their trials are taking place on the 4th and 6th of August at 6:30 in the showgrounds on the Boyle Road in Carrick-on-Shannon. So anyone who wants to find out more information, you can get more on their Facebook page. They'd love to hear from you, and hopefully they can join Manor as they progress through the divisions. And also new signs of a new club in Dromahera, which is quite promising from a soccer point of view, with the facilities down there. It's great to see them looking at setting up a new club and expanding into that as well. Now let's get into the meat and bones of the actual show. 15 interviews still to come. There's so much to get packed into the next 50 minutes to an hour or so. We're going to start with ladies football, and of course over in Ballinamore on Sunday morning saw the ladies football competition kick off for Ballinamore Shauna Heslins as they hosted their near neighbours new look St. Brigids. Effectively Aughawillan and Aughawillan have come together to form a club called St. Brigids. So their first game in senior championship competition, and missing a lot of first team players, and unfortunately it wasn't to be for the new girls. The Ballinamore side proven just to have that little bit of extra strength and depth, and running out on a fairly comfortable scoreline, 320 to no score. So a tough day for the new girls, but there will be better days ahead for them. I caught up after the game with Ballinamore Shauna Heslins Emma McGovern for her thoughts on their victory. Emma McGovern, thoughts on this morning's game?
Yeah, it was a good game, but St. Brigids are a young team and they're only starting off, and it will take them time to get back and up at it again. But Carla missing, and they had a few other players missing as well. And with Carla with the collarbone or whatever, she's a massive loss to them. And to be fair, they still tried their best and they done as best they could, and they'll definitely in a few years be coming back and they'll be on top again, because there's been many years now where they've always just been hammering us, and it's just great now that we're in that position, hopefully, and especially now that we're Ballinamore, that hopefully that we can push on and do well this year. So
of course there's a good spirit around the club here. We're here, the junior lads are winning well, also against Aughawillan. It's kind of a triple
header this week.
The seniors as well winning last night. In terms of the girls going forward, what's the mood been in the camp in the girls' side of the house?
Yeah, sure, it's good, because my younger sister, she plays as well, so I obviously have 3 brothers in the senior team as well, but it's all positive, and it's just great when you're on a winning streak, and there's the lads are even, they help out as well, because we have 2 of the senior lads in helping as well, and which is great to see. And even Connor, he's just great, he just helps out as much as he can, and there's Mary there too, and Sarah McLaughlin, it's just great. So
tell us about the actual regime over the last few months when everyone's been in lockdown. How has the club managed to get through that?
So basically, at the start, no one really knew what was going to happen, whether we were going to have football or not. So it started off with just everyone kind of doing their own running, and like it was very hard to motivate yourself. Like I myself, like the last 2 weeks before football came back, actually stopped like doing much because I was like, there's no point because the football is over, like, or whatever. And then we got word the football was back, and it was like, oh god, we didn't really know if the fitness was going to be there or not. But like we all kind of came together and we trained, and like it was hard at the start because obviously like with the whole coronavirus, and some girls unfortunately couldn't come to training for different reasons, but like hopefully now we'll be able to finish out the year, but you just don't know like what's going to happen.
In terms of that finishing out the year, set out a marker this morning. Big results also for Glencar Manor and St Joseph's, should I say. You must be happy enough to be part of that trio going into the second round of games.
Yeah, no, it's good now, but these next 3 to 4 games we have now, they're not going to be easy. Like we have the likes of Manor, Hamilton, Kiltubber, even like St Francis and St Joseph, like they're all great teams. Like so, it's definitely not going to be it's not going to be an easy game. But we're just going to have to push on and be positive, and hopefully we might get the outcome we want.
So well done today.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Also in the Ladies Senior Football Championship, Glencar Manor, last year's beaten finalists, were the visitors to Ballinaglera, where their hosts, St Francis, weren't able to keep with their firepower up front. After the game, I spoke to Glencar Manor's Leah Fox and Karen Connolly, as well as their manager, Padraic Corrigan. But first of all, let's hear from the St Francis manager, Gavin Durkin, after his side's defeat. Gavin Durkin, tough day at the office today.
Yeah, look, things didn't go right for us today. Had to start off a good first 10 minutes. Just Manor Hamilton done the simple things right. They played the ball much quicker. Their defence was tight. Their forwards was much more clinical. When they moved forward, they looked like they were going to mean business. They got the scores. Look, we have lots of pluses to take out of it today too. We'll work on what we've got to do over the next few weeks. We have St Brigids next Sunday, and we'll work on that in the training ground over the weekend. Hopefully progress from there on.
It can be very easy to be focused on the negatives after a defeat like that, but looking more towards the positive side of the fence, anything you took out of today that you're happy with?
Yeah, I thought overall our defence was pretty good. Our defence was tight. Look, they just drove at us and we just couldn't cope with it. They were just better side on the day, and we just have to work on the training ground, work hard over the next week and see what we can do against St Brigids.
Losing a player like Mairead McCauley so early in the game as well, rib injury, it looks like. What's the prognosis on her?
Yeah, so I think she's going to go and get a scan or an x-ray later on today. Look, I suppose come back where we have 4 or 5 first team players that would be injured, couldn't play today as well, so what can we do when you just move on up and onwards?
Will you get most of those back for the rest of the championship? Or?
Yeah, there's 2 out. I think there's three lassies coming back for the rest of the championship. Yeah.
Okay, well listen, hard luck today, a chance maybe to learn a few lessons and push on for the rest of the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Bethany.
Leah Fox, thoughts after that?
Yeah, it was a good win. We kind of started a bit slow, but then we started putting the points and goals over. It kind of dropped off a wee bit in the second half, the first 15 minutes, but we pushed on there at the end. But it was a very tough game and kind of rough, and I don't think the scoreline reflects the game at all. We were probably a bit lucky, to be honest.
In terms of the overall championship picture, 40 players named on the team this year. Must be great to kind of be involved in such a big team effort or squad effort in the club.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Like, we have loads of numbers out of training, like 35, 36. Everyone's really pushing for the places in the first 15 senior team, and then we have a junior game tonight, so the girls will be pushing on again to get placed in the senior team for next week, and it's just great to have the good competition.
Looking down through the list of names, particularly in the forward line for Manor, 4 or 5 names stand out of 15 quality players. It wouldn't be a miss on county teams across the county. What's it like as a player playing with the likes of Dervla, Murren, Alva, Hannah Johnson, all with massive experience coming through from other sports as well?
Yeah, it's great. Like, they're very obviously talented players across many different codes, but the backs too, like, they make it easy for us defending well, and all we really do is score, so they make the job. They have a way harder job than us, so we're very thankful to them, but it's lovely playing the forwards when we get going.
They do the grunt work and you get all the glory. It's great. In terms of the rest of the summer, what's the plan going forward?
I think we've Kiltubber next week, so that's really it for the minute. We got our 2 points today, so that's the most important, and just take it one game as it comes and see where it takes us.
So well done today.
Thanks very much.
Karen Connolly, what do you learn from a game like that?
I suppose it was our first game out after, I suppose, the whole isolation and not training for a good 3 or 4 months. So it was a really tough game. St Francis are a really strong team. They've come up 2 years ago from intermediate. They've a couple of really good girls and a couple of young ones come through as well. Same as ourselves, but it was a really tough match all in all.
Very one-sided though, unfortunately, in terms of a spectacle to watch on. But in terms of getting back together, is it nice to be back on the pitch and kind of not worrying about diseases and stuff?
Oh God, yeah, it was lovely getting out a couple of weeks ago and getting to, I suppose, interact with the girls. We've grown up with each other our whole lives and trained as a group for 9 months of the year. So it was the first time in probably 13, 14 years that we haven't seen each other for, the whole of January to, what was it, April? Actually June.
In terms of the next couple of weeks, obviously games coming thick and fast. What's the hope for the team? Obviously beaten finalists last 2 years. Third time lucky this time round?
We're just going to take every game as it comes and hopefully learn from our mistakes. Like you say, we were in the final the last 2 years, so I suppose we have ambitions, but we're not going to take anything for granted. The campaign is a lot different this year. We have 5 games instead of 3, so I suppose it's up for grabs.
Well done today.
Thanks very much.
Padraig, what do you learn from a fairly one-sided game like that?
It was one-sided, but it's the first time. It's the first time we're out this year. Really, we had championship matches, and there's nothing like championship football, no matter who's against. We knew they came up from St Francis came up from intermediates. That GA stalwart in here and over them, So we knew we were in for a battle. The way it happened in the first few minutes, they set out a stall, and once we kind of got to grips with it, the kind of floodgates opened. Hopefully it's a stepping stone to where we want to be. And,
in terms of that, I suppose beaten finalists the last 2 seasons is the plan, because you look on fire today in terms of being able to score at will. What's the outlook going forward into the rest of the season?
I'll not lie, the last 2 years have hurt us. We're driven. COVID has been a pain, but it's also benefits. We've 40 girls training all the time, not just willy-nilly, they're coming all the time. The panel has got stronger. There was nobody on J1s this year. There was nobody going to festivals. The holidays were curtailed. Soccer and rugby, boxing, all those other things we compete with haven't really got going yet. So at the minute, it's working out well for us. The only thing I would worry about is in the 5-week programme is that you can't bring on another substitute or they're lost from juniors, and we're trying to operate a junior team here to get girls in a 5-game league or 5 round robin system, to expect your same players to play all the time, otherwise you're taken from the junior team, and that rule has to change. Do you know what I mean? If to give girls, like if we go on our 5th game, I think it's against St Joseph or whatever, and we're through, or Joseph's are through, whatever, they have a second team as well. It'd be great for young ones to get senior championship football to develop the ladies' game and all that. It's an old, and do what they do in the senior men, 17 or 18 like that, and that, because the injuries are going to pile up. At the end of the day, Cammy came off there, and we couldn't bring anyone on because we have a game against Drumkeerin in the juniors, and so that's the only thing that I'd worry about is injuries in the quick turnout. But I'm very happy.
Would you be an advocate maybe of 3 strikes and you're out? If you played 3 games at senior level, you can't drop back down, or is it strictly 18 and then done?
Absolutely. If you played 3 times for senior, you're there or thereabouts. So I'm happy with that. That's a great rule. I never even thought of that one. That is a good rule, because if you're used, you're part of the plan. You're going to be used all the time. It's the girls that might get there today when we were 20 or 30 points up. Wouldn't it be great for a 17 and 18-year-old girl to run on in there? Say she played senior football, go back to her friends, they come again. Jesus, there's young Anna, Devani or whatever got playing today. I want to be like that. That's what it's all about. We're promoting ladies football in a very competitive market. We don't get a look in a lot of instances. So that's the one I'm saying. Other than that, it's going well for us.
On a purely human level, just glad to be back on the sideline, glad to be back coaching.
Yeah. Again, it's been. I love it, and this was a 12-month project that I was just going to, and it's starting to turn into a crusade, until we get it over the line. By no means do we think we're anywhere near winning yet. It's just that it's a first stepping stone. That's all I can say. I love it. We have now, along with John Sheridan with me, but we have James Glancy and Kieran Sheridan, and you do need them all. Their opinion, and their knowledge, and they see things that myself and John mightn't necessarily know. So it is. I'm very happy with where we are.
Well done today.
Thanks a million, Bethany. Fair play to you.
Now staying in senior football, but moving across to the men's side of the house, I was in Carrick-on-Shannon where St Mary's and Mohill played out. I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't a great game. Definitely one that anyone outside of Mohill will be that interested in having seen again. Live streamed by the club, some really, really good initiatives. The facilities in St Mary's looked phenomenal, and the pitch, and that, to be fair, has to be said about all the venues across the last 2 weekends. The pitch was immaculate, the crowd well spaced out, limited in numbers as well. It looked like it was really, really well managed, and in terms of the actual presentation of the day, it was a good PA system, live streaming from the venue. You really couldn't fault that aspect of the thing at all. It's just, unfortunately, just the second half of the game, Mohill just came out and just blew them away completely, despite having a man sent off, which I must say, we tweeted it was a straight red card. It wasn't. It was actually 2 yellow cards. For some reason, most of us in the crowd missed the issuing of the second yellow. We just saw the red been brandished, and we tweeted it wasn't. It was clarified for me by the referee after the game. It was definitely 2 yellows, and there probably won't be a suspension because of that. So it was an interesting game though in terms of Mohill, and they were just so impressive from start to finish. They never really looked like losing the game, and once they got the second goal at the start of the second half, it was effectively game over. They just ran up a couple of decent shots from distance at that point, and Carrick just never really looked like coming back into the game. We've already spoken about the managerial situation. We're not going to drag it up again. Nobody would speak to us from the Carrick point of view after the game, which is unfortunate, but we will try and get you some commentary from them during the week for next Friday's show. But we did speak to some people from the Mohill side, and we're going to hear from their manager Liam Keenan and from their player Domhnaill Flynn now.
Domhnaill Flynn, fairly big margin of victory here today in Carrick.
Yeah, it was a good win. Now we were looking to bounce back from last week. We were very disappointed to lose to Ballinamore, so we would have been in trouble if we lost this game. So we came really with a good mentality, and I think kind of paid off. We took a lead earlier on, and that kind of held the whole way through. So yeah, happy out.
In terms of the game, late sending off as well, looked a bit harsh.
Yeah, in my opinion it was fairly harsh as well. I was right beside it, but look, these decisions they'll come against you, and they could go with you other days, but lucky enough we had a couple of points to spare at that stage, and we just kind of seen the game out. So look, these things will come up in championship, so you're just going to have to get on with it.
You say you've seen the game out, but from the sending off you actually stretched the lead out. It looked like a bit of a training exercise towards the end of the game. Without being too disrespectful to St Mary's, you just seemed to overpower them towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I think probably that was just because they had to push on, they had to find something, so they committed men forward, and we were just able to tag on a couple of late scores. So I wouldn't say now it was like training renting it there. There was still championship hits going in and championship intensity, so we're happy out. We're happy to get another few lads in there as well that were missing last week. So on to the next week.
In terms of where you are at the moment, 2 games in, 1 win, 1 defeat, you happy with that?
Well, we wanted to win every game really, but the thing we're most happy with is bouncing back from last week. So we have 2 points on the board now. It puts us ahead of Carrick, so we just need to get into that quarter final. It doesn't matter what spot we're in, we'll fancy ourselves in the quarter final. So
listen, well done tonight.
Thanks very much.
Liam Keenan, your thoughts after that victory?
Yeah, delighted with the victory, to be honest with you. Came here looking for the 2 points. We're very keen to get the 2 points, and we're delighted to be going home with them.
In terms of the game, talk us through kind of your thought process as the game developed.
Yeah, well look, obviously it was very tight. It was tight, and they made things a little bit difficult for us at times, dropping men back and that. But I think as the game grew on, we learned to deal with that a little bit better. And we were very happy with how it finished up. Obviously we went down to 14 men. We weren't overly pleased with that. We want to try and keep all our men on the pitch, but at times it looked like we had the extra man there as the game closed out. But the second goal, I think, killed the game.
In terms of, I suppose, the personnel, obviously the red card probably means a suspension going forward. Will that affect you as you plan to get through the rest of the group?
Yeah, well, Keith Keegan is a very important player for us, so anytime we lose a player, we don't want to lose any player. We have a few players coming back from injury, which is a great help. So we'll have to plan accordingly.
In terms of, I suppose, the positives coming out of today, Keith Byrne seemed to be on fire today. One of the best probably performances in a club championship game in a long time in the county. You must be happy to have a player like that at your disposal.
Absolutely. We're very lucky in the way that we have five lads that play with are on the Leitrim panel, and that when you can bring them lads back and knit them into the team, it makes a huge difference. But we're very happy with Keith and a whole number of the lads, to be honest with you.
I suppose you will be disappointed with the result last week, despite a very tight game with Ballinamore, Shauna Heslins. What's the plan going forward in terms of where do you see the kind of the season mapped out ahead of you?
Yeah, well, obviously delighted to be back playing football for a start. It's great to be back playing football, and the lads wanted to put in a massive effort this year, and with the way everything worked out, that all came to a halt. But we're delighted now they're back training very well. Our plan is to get to the quarter-final. We get to the quarter-final, we get to knockout football in Park Sean here behind us. That's what we want, and that's the target.
So well done tonight.
Thank you. Cheers.
Over the weekend, I also caught up with Manorhampton's James Glancy, rumoured to have retired, but only to see him feature in both of the opening games in this year's championship. I caught up with him yesterday evening to talk about the game on Saturday and the impact that it's having in the club and the two successes so far and what that has brought to the club.
James Glancy, last night, big game here in the Senior Football Championship. Nice to get a second win under your belts in the championship this year.
Yeah, definitely nice to get the win. I suppose everybody refers to it too, like with the COVID-19 situation. It's just different circumstances this year, so we don't really know what to expect from players, from opposition. So we're really delighted to get two wins out of two, and really move on now. We have a break next week and move on to the next game, you know.
Still have local rivals, of course, Melvin Gales to come there. They picked up a nice win last night against Allen Gales too. What's the feeling in the group of players, obviously defending champions?
It's just it's mixed because nobody really knows what to expect. It's just an eerie feeling really about what's going on, and you know, there's dates there for the future and things like that, but people just don't know what's going to happen, and it's different to anything we've ever experienced before. But a lot of young players in Manorhampton now have really stepped up to the mark, with a lot of lads stepping back, so it's great to see, and it's great development. And under the two Seans and Kenneth, things are starting to take a bit of shape now after everything that happened.
Now, there were rumours that you mightn't be in the yellow and blue this year, but you've surprised a few people by showing up. What's the situation with yourself for the next couple of weeks? Are you back for the whole championship, or is it just to fill the gaps while other players may be injured?
Look, you're just trying to give the club a hand, you know what I mean? Things are, as I said, and I remember just looking at during the lockdown, one of the webinars with Eamon O'Reilly, who's physio there in Dublin, and a Black Lion and Cavan man, and you know, he spoke about injuries and things like that, and everything he said has come to fruition, and lads have just picked up injuries here in the club, and I think it's the same in every other club, and you're just trying to maybe put the shoulder to the wheel and give a dig out when I can, and to look at that's all I can really do, you know.
In terms of the overall championship, any major surprises as you've been looking at the results coming in over the last few weeks?
Well, results are a lot closer than have been in other years, and again, that's down to teams' lack probably of preparation, and you know, not many people might agree with me, but I think it's a credit to the clubs in that, you know, with the seriousness of the situation, that people actually stuck to the lockdown and things like that, and they couldn't do anything really. So I think that's probably one of the things that you can see. Score lines are a lot closer than what people would have suggested prior to it, because there's been no league football. But you know, it's the same all over the country, and if you're looking at any of the club championships, it seems to be a trend that's been developed over the last number of weeks since we all got back out in the field. And ultimately, I think you can see a lot of people out there. They're just glad to be out on the pitch and glad to be enjoying their football, and hopefully the crowds will be increased a little bit with a bit of consideration, and you know, people will get to come and see their clubs in action.
We're speaking to you after the second women's victory of the weekend for the club. It seems to be pretty good on the women's side of the club for you now. You're involved in the management team, obviously, for both teams.
Yeah, just giving a hand out as well. I suppose this morning was very, very good, and again the draw here with Drumkeirin's first team. It's positive. The girls have put in a massive effort throughout the last 2-3 years, and as PC would say there, the manager, we're just trying to facilitate everything. The players are driving it. We have a phenomenal group of players, but you know, they've nothing won. Really. They've a league title from 2 years ago, which at this stage, you know, they're just hungry for more success, and every one of them is buying into everything that we're asking. So all you can ask of them to give 100%, have a good attitude, a good work rate, and at the minute that's happening. So you know, hopefully they get the rewards in a few weeks.
Thanks, man, James. Well done for a fairly successful weekend on all fronts for Manor.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Now, one early throw-in on Saturday evening in Bornacoola saw the hosts beat Eslin in what was a very strange game. No score for the first 16 minutes, despite, I think it's fair to say, probably 3 excellent goal opportunities for the Boars. It just couldn't seem to find the back of the net. The Eslin goalkeeper in spectacular form, but also some maybe poor decision making. They did put that to right through the game and took their chances as it went on and ended up winning the game reasonably comfortably in the end on a scoreline of 1-11 to 2-4. Bornacoola, after throwing away a 2-point lead last week against Ballinaglera, almost did the same again this time. It was very much fly by the seat of your pants time for the last couple of minutes. A very strange end to the game. Bornacoola 5 points up, looked in control with maybe the same number of minutes left on the clock when a freak goal, goalkeeper caught a high ball, seemed to be almost pushed or harassed or whatever across the line as he had tried to evade a forward, and the 2 umpires instantly put their hand up, signalled the goal, left it with 2 points to go. Eslin just couldn't quite bridge that gap, but there's plenty in that Eslin team, and there's a few players obviously well known to anyone who follows the county, the likes of the Byrne brothers, and Eamon Stenson also had an impressive game, as well as many others on that team. So we caught up with Eamon Stenson, who is still feeling the pain from the defeat after the game, and also we'll hear from Shane Mallon and Seamus Mallon, the Bornacoola manager, afterwards. Eamon Stenson, what's your thoughts after that?
Not good now. Two games, 2 losses, so we're at the pin of our collar now to come out with the group. So yeah, it's disappointing. We're not performing. So it's 2-3. It's a poor scoreline against 1-11. So there's not a lot we can say about it. Just poor performance on our behalf.
It took a while to get going there. No score for the first 15 or 16 minutes. What was the thought at that stage?
Well, when it's not too bad when both teams don't score, but it could be worse. No, it was just takers for the first few minutes until everyone kind of got into it, and then sure, no one knew what to think. What was it, 3-3 at half time, or what was the score? So look, you wouldn't be too worried about the first 15 minutes. It's the second half where we fell apart, so it's just something that we need to work on. In terms of lessons from today's game, what do you think you'll have to bring to the last 2 games in the group? No, we just need to, where passing isn't up to scratch. We're just passing it to other men. We're just putting it too high a ball, so we're just being poor all over now. We're not performing the way we know we can. What's next for you? We have Ballinaglera next week. So as we know that Ballinaglera are always a hard team to beat, so we've always had hard battles with them. So all we can do is go out and play better than we did today and try harder. So that's all we can say. Well, hard luck today, and thanks for chatting to me. Thanks very much. Shane Mallon, what's your thoughts after the game today?
Well, obviously chuffed to get the win. We got unlucky last week, lost by a point, late goal, but I mean, we really needed to bounce back, and I think it was vital for us to get a win now. Really want to get through to a quarter final. There's a lot of criticism of this team. We sort of been said all around the county that we'd be going for relegation and that, so we sort of wanted to prove a point to everyone, even within our own club. We wanted to show everyone that we're well capable of beating really anyone in this intermediate championship, and we want to push on now after that. In terms of the opening of the game, not the greatest of starts, scoreless after the first quarter. What were your thoughts kind of coming into that kind of second quarter of the game? Well, I just thought we needed to settle down. We got Ronan got a point there just before the water break, a fist over the bar, and that we missed a good few at the very start. So once we got that, it sort of settled us down and it got us going. So yeah, I was sort of confident that we were able to push on. Last year when we played Eslin, we sort of flopped at the start and they got their few early goals, so we sort of concentrated on stopping them and early, and sort of worked, but we just needed to get on the board, and once we did, we sort of never looked back really. You pretty much dominated the game from start to finish, but you mentioned early goals, and there was 3 or 4 really good goal chances in those first 15-20 minutes. Any thoughts in terms of maybe being more clinical going forward as the competition progresses? Yeah, obviously that's a big thing for us. Had a lot of goal chances even last week as well, and missing them, so probably a big thing to work on in training. But even though fair play to the Eslin goalie, made a few top class saves as well. What's it like being from Bornacoola and getting to play games here in the home ground? Would be a fairly uncommon occurrence for most footballers in the county. No, we were there before the game, and it's sort of something that pushed us on. You had some of the lads there who played for years, and they said it was a privilege, and they said it was something that they've never felt before, and they wanted to really show, and I think they've really done that today. They pushed on, and it's good to do it at home. Obviously you'd be well known to people around the county in rugby circles, having been involved in schools rugby in Leinster over the last few years. What does it mean to be back playing with the local lads in the local area? It's brilliant, yeah. It was always growing up, obviously coming down here watching the senior team play, it's always something you wanted to do, so I think getting the chance this year, probably more because of coronavirus, so that to come back is it's brilliant, yeah. It really is good.
What are the plans on the rugby front going forward?
Well, obviously, to see how this year goes, it's not as tough this year because we can't really stay as much in Dublin and can't get as much done. So, come September when colleges go back and we'll hopefully be in the AIL and like that. Academy, hopefully. You never know. Sub-academy, well, not academy, I know.
Well, listen, in terms of, I suppose, the more pressing matters, you've got a couple of big championship games over the next couple of weeks with the Boars. What are the hopes for the rest of the season? Is there an intermediate championship in this team?
Well, we believe in ourselves. We got unlucky last week, and we would back ourselves against pretty much anyone. I'm confident that we can at least push anyone, and no team's going to walk over us. That's all I say.
So well done today.
Thanks, Bernie.
Seamus Mallon, interesting game. What's your thoughts after that?
First thing is I'm very happy to have won the match. We made hard work of it. I was under no illusions that was going to be a very difficult game. Same fixture last year in Clune. We essentially were beaten out the gate by half time. We stood off them. Today at least we got stuck in. Like, we put two good halves together. We were a bit calamitous in our finishing. We had 4 goal chances. Credit to the keeper from Eslin, he made a save or two. We probably made it easy for him. Unforced errors, like, I have to say we were very down last week coming from Ballinaglera. I thought we played well. It was, since my second year here, has been our best performance, I'd say. And we counted 8 unforced errors, picking the ball off the ground. We didn't track 2 men. We gave 1-1 off it. Today we made maybe not as many, and it didn't cost us in the end, but it very nearly did. So as you can hear, I'm a bit hoarse with lads telling you, yeah, this is what we do, and then they go back out and they do the opposite. Look, it's the heated championship as well. We have some experienced players. I was glad to have Brian Conroy did a great job for us today. Philip Howard came in, calmed the thing, got on ball, and it was good to have that bit of experience because we have a lot of players who haven't played a lot of championship football. So look, I'm delighted. It's 2 points, and look forward to talking to Sheila next week.
You managed to keep Conor Byrne quite quiet, which is what most opponents in Eslin want to do, but they did look dangerous at times. Yeah,
he got a run on Damien McGuinness, would have a lot of experience now, and man has problems with hamstrings, but he goes through a massive amount of work to get himself fit, and he's like a very good man marker. Like, Conor Byrne is a phenomenal footballer, has the strength. Once he has the ball in hand, he's very difficult to deal with. He set up a great goal, but other than that, I think Damien would be very happy. I know we had Jason back there helping out. In front of him, there'd be 2 sort of old campaigners at this stage now. So yeah, we were happy. We were happy with how we dealt with the Burns. I thought Alan Crahan, when he was marking Tomas, and did a good job, just knocking the ball away from him, really. And look, once you take that out of Eslin, I suppose it takes a bit of their firepower away. But they had other players that caused us problems too. Eamon Stenson caused us problems coming from deep. James McNulty caused us problems coming from deep. So look, they're not just a one-trick pony either, to be fair to them.
In terms of the intermediate championship, I know we spoke ahead of the start of the competition 2 weeks ago. You spoke about just surviving and staying in that top 4. Is that realistic now, or are you still maybe looking towards that bottom place, or what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
Every manager, Breffney, has one eye on that bottom place. Let's face it. At least this year there's only 1. Last year there was 2. I'll be delighted when we're safe from relegation. But then we want to start thinking about going for maybe winning a quarter final. Ballinaglera, to be fair to them, have their eye on that intermediate championship. They have been very close. I thought last week we were as good as them. We had the beating of them. I know we didn't beat them, and maybe that comes from experience. So look, we'll start thinking about a quarter final, I think, when we're in a quarter final. Up to now, or for now, it's Aughawillan next week, and we have to get something. I'd probably be surprised if 2 points will keep us from 5th place. I'd say there'll be a kick in Eslin yet.
Finally, let's talk about that last goal, because you mentioned it earlier in the interview that you almost let it slip again this week. You were 4 or 5 points up, cruising, 5-6 minutes on the clock, and then talk us through what happened.
Yes, look, to be fair, Danny, and I have to say he's been excellent for us. It's his 2nd year, with his 3rd year as full-time keeper. He had a bit of an issue with his finger during the week. I think he has to go for a cast next week. But in fairness to him, he played through the pain barrier. I'd say it was just a small error. I'd say he caught it and just stepped back, maybe just unaware of his position. I wouldn't fault Danny at all. To be fair to him, I thought he showed great character. He stepped up and kicked a 50 over the bar, sort of put us back in control after it. So I'd have full belief in him, and bar he has a massive cast on his hand next week, I'll be picking him for number 1 position.
Excellent. And congratulations today and the best luck through the rest of the championship.
Thanks very much, Breffney.
Now, Seamus Gallagher was in Drumkeerin for their 116 to 4-point victory over Aughawillan. He caught up with a member of the Drumkeerin management team, Micheál Ford, at the end of the game. Here's the conversation they had.
Well done, Mohill. Another victory, but more importantly, a very good performance. You must be delighted how the team played there this evening.
Yeah, look, the win was the most important thing, Seamus. At the end of the day, I suppose we managed to put up 116, which was pleasing for us. It was the most important thing, on a bad evening like that, was to get the result, and we're delighted with that.
Yeah, that's 2 wins from 2 now. You're probably almost guaranteed a quarter-final spot, but it's important to finish as high in the table as possible.
Yeah, look, we take each game as it comes. As I said at the start of the year, it's going to take a 22, 23, 24-man panel. We have a bye now next week, which is coming at a nice time for us that we can maybe, rest the bones and recover, and then face into Bornacoola then in the next game away, which will be a very difficult game as well.
I was just going to say, no game next week. It just has come at the right time, midway through the round robin. So, as you said, a rest for the players and maybe a chance to take in a game yourselves to just see who the opposition for future games.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a chance, I suppose, if we can, manage to look over a fence or a hedge somewhere, if we can get into a game.
Or get a ticket.
That's the thing. You might know somebody, Seamus. But anyway, yeah. Look, we're delighted, I suppose, to get the second win, and it should nearly, have one foot in the quarter final now at this stage.
That's grand. Thanks very much, Mohill.
Cheers, Seamus.
Finally, on the men's side of the house, in the Junior Football Championship, Shaughnaheslins in action against Aughawillan. It was the third local derby of the week between effectively the same opposition, Aughawillan, St. Brigids Ladies and Aughawillan, from senior, ladies senior and men's junior competition over the weekend, held in Ballinamore. 3 games and 3 wins for the home side. Not a great weekend for Aughawillan, but I'm sure they will come good again before the end of the championship. So 3 big wins for Ballinamore. The junior game in particular, big win for Shaughnaheslins. Just the strength in depth of that senior team. You could really see it coming through. So many young lads just bursting to get onto that senior team. A fairly heavy win in the end. 5-21 to a single point for Aughawillan. Better days ahead for Aughawillan, I think, in the senior championship, but just struggling for numbers. 13 aside was where they played. We caught up with Adrian Gallogly, manager of Ballinamore Shaughnaheslins, after the game. Adrian Gallogly, bit of a one-sided affair in the end.
Yeah, one-sided affair, all right. Aughawillan really wouldn't have numbers maybe for second team football. Didn't have them this morning anyway. We had to go down to 13 aside. We have a big panel of lads in Ballinamore. We have lots of young lads, so the whole idea is developing lads for the senior team.
It really did show the strength and depth there pretty much throughout the whole team. You never really looked in danger.
Yeah, well, we have the senior manager comes to all these games, Dominic, so he's looking, and lads know he's watching out to see who's up for the senior team and who's going to push on to try to get into that panel. So it's a big effort all round, and the whole priority is winning the senior championship.
Bit of a local rivalry this weekend between the seniors, the juniors and the ladies seniors this morning. 3 victories for Ballinamore. There must be a little bit of pride in that in the town.
Yeah, well, we always enjoy beating Aughawillan. We've no qualms about that. They enjoy beating us. This weekend was our weekend, but it's a long summer yet, and I'm sure Aughawillan have lots to say yet.
What impact do you think a game like this will have in the overall run of the junior championship for you?
Well, it's about getting going, lads. We got 6 subs in today too. Now lads got full game time, so it's up to next Sunday and enough now, and we'll be trying to push on from that.
What's the hope for this season? Is a junior title in the grasp of this team?
Yeah, last time we played in the Junior A Championship, the second team was we won it. I told them this morning there that's the plan again this year. We're always out to win whatever's put in front of us and move on from there.
What are the big positives for the team and the club coming out of this morning?
Again, it's developing a few lads. You have a few under 17s coming through from last year. We have a few older lads there too, but it's a good mixture of youth and older lads, and it's all about developing lads for the senior squad, so they can step in when someone gets injured, that the senior team can step in and without any trouble.
There seems to be a good buzz around the town and around the club at the moment. All teams running well. It must be a nice time to be involved with the club. I know you've been involved for a long time.
Yeah, everything is looking good. We have big numbers of training, big panel of lads. So, football is big in every club, but it's far more enjoyable when you're doing well.
Listen, well done today.
All right, good man, thanks.
And finally for today, the highlight of the weekend for me in terms of entertaining games was definitely the very, very end-to-end encounter played in Bugon Sunday afternoon in the Junior Ladies Football Championship. Drumkeerin were the visitors and they played Glencar Manor's second team, reduced by numbers because of the first team action earlier in the day, but also a few girls being unavailable due to other commitments, work mainly, and the late fixture notice and the late fixture change. It was very interesting to see the game was just end to end. It was both teams just going at it completely, just attack. 11 goals in all, 5-10 to 6-7. Both teams held considerable leads at different points of the game, and it just seemed to go, momentum shifted left, right. It was a really good day, really good weather, decent crowd, probably the full 200 allocation, if not maybe one or two more in cars dotted around the place watching, but a really, really good, just really nice evening entertainment, exactly what club football should be about at junior level. Some really good camaraderie and just a real joy to watch the game, to be honest. And for me, a couple of the highlights were how many people came out to support a junior side or a second side in terms of Manor Hamilton. There was a really good crowd there from Drumkeerin as well. But for me, the bit I enjoyed the most was actually seeing the senior players from Glencar Manor who had played earlier in the day all came out to support. Maybe it's a COVID thing, maybe it's a club thing, but it was just a lovely thing to see a second team get so much support from the first team, because we all know that everyone supports the first team, but then numbers when you go to a junior game, it can dip off a little bit. So it was really, really nice to see that kind of club vibe really coming through in Manor Hamilton. And it's a really nice environment that they've built down there, and I think that's partially why they're resulted in so much success over recent years, whether it's senior or junior titles on the men's side or senior finals and underage titles on both the boys and the girls end of things. It's just a really, really positive place, I think, to be at the moment, and the best of luck to them. And I think it's been replicated in other clubs around the county as well, but it was more than about the game, and that was just a really, really nice feeling. Lovely way to end the weekend. I just really enjoyed a couple of hours I spent down in Manor Hamilton yesterday, and it was very, very nice. So thanks to everyone for chatting to me. We did actually speak about football at the end of the day. We'll hear from a representative of each team. I spoke to centre back on the Manor team, Michelle McNulty, and also to the Drumkeerin manager, Padraic Murphy.
Michelle McNulty, a very even game, draw in the end. Both teams' chances to win it. What's your thoughts after the game?
Thought it was a real battle from the start. I know in the first half we lacked a little bit of confidence in ourselves. I think we really knew we were up against a first team, but I suppose we've got a great panel this year. I think everybody in this panel is well fit to slot into the senior team, so I think that's what really drove us on in the second half. We got confidence in ourselves and we pushed on.
It really was a goal scorers kind of game. Plenty of goals to keep the fairly decent crowd here in to entertain for most of the 60 minutes. Was there something against points, or was it just you like to see that net bulge?
I think Bugon's very big pitch. It's wide, plenty of space, 13 aside. It left a lot open, I suppose, and really give forwards a lot of opportunities to get in on goals. So,
what's the prognosis for the end of for the rest of the championship? Because obviously you have limited enough numbers based on the game today. 14 players available to you. How is that going to affect you going on through the championship?
I suppose we have 2 or 3 girls working today, and the game was refixed for this time at short notice, so girls were starting work at 3 o'clock, so unfortunately they dropped off. So we have another 4 or 5 girls to slot into the panel, and we will obviously throughout the season be losing girls to the first team, but I think there's more than enough here to keep pushing on. So
there's a really good camaraderie here with the girls who played this morning in the senior team out to support you. You don't necessarily see that in every club. What's that little bit special about Manor?
I suppose from January before lockdown we've been training together. There's been a large squad, I suppose, and even since lockdown I suppose it's really cemented the squad now. Every evening there's 32 at training, so when you're training with girls 3 times a week, you're coming out to support them, and nobody would be willing to miss a game really, because they're pushing on players that they've been training with since the end of June. Last year the boys won a senior and a junior championship. Is that within this group of players to win senior and a junior championship this season? You've started pretty well. That's the aim anyway. Yeah, no, we're going to work hard now for the next couple of weeks, and that's the aim for to bring 2 cups back to North Leitrim the end of September.
Well done today.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Padraic Murphy, one of the mentors or managers of Drumkeerin. Interesting game. A point lost or a point gained?
Well, I suppose for a first day out, a draw, you don't want to go away with a defeat on your first game, so I suppose you can't be disappointed. But in the third quarter, I think we were 8 ahead. At half time 8 ahead. We would have been hoping to push on and win the game, because I think actually the win favoured us a bit for the second half. But as it turned out, Manor Hamilton must have had a good half-time talk. They came out very strong. They destroyed us in that third quarter, and I think we were 2 behind. So I suppose at the end of the day, coming back to draw the game, having been 2 down at that stage, no team I suppose deserved to lose that game. So happy enough, yeah.
It didn't seem to be going your way from the very start. When a couple of early goals, you missed a penalty. Crossbar seemed to be permanently in the way of the ball whenever you kicked it in. You did come back to have that 8-point lead. You must be happy enough with the shooting and the finishing from your side.
Yeah, as you say, I suppose we could have been maybe 16 points ahead looking at it, from the missed penalty, the hitting the bar, maybe a couple of goal opportunities. But, in fairness to Manor Hamilton, we did have a very dodgy start. Manor have a great name. Maybe some of our younger girls were a bit nervous, and it looked a very nervous start for us, and we came back that second quarter, performed well even with the missed opportunities, and as I said, hoped to push on. But in fairness to Manor Hamilton, again they came out, and as I said, that third quarter was bad for us. But yeah, at the end of the day, I suppose both teams would be happy with that point, a first day out.
In terms of the overall look at the championship, obviously beaten finalists last year, you'd be hoping to go one better this year. What difference does it make with the late withdrawals of one or two sides this week in terms of the actual makeup of the championship, now only having 5 teams instead of 7? Does that affect you in any way, shape or form?
Well, I suppose on paper it should favour you maybe in a way that I think it's the top 4 qualify for semi-finals, but then again you would like to have more games, and maybe they could have been 2 weaker teams. It would have been a nice start against maybe one of the weaker teams to put our marker down, but you can only play what's on paper, what's put in front of you, and try to win every game. I know it's top 4 out of 5, that sounds maybe easy enough, but we'll be going out to win every game like we did there today. We were hoping to get off to a flying start, but it's a happy enough start to it, and I can't see it making a big difference. Whoever was going to be top 4 is going to be top 4, whether it's 5 or 7 teams in the competition. So,
in terms of lessons learned from today, what do you take from today's game that will stand to you for the rest of the competition?
Yeah, some patterns of play we weren't happy with. Maybe too much fancy kick passing where the simple hand pass was on. Maybe looking up for players in space. Little things like that we'll work on in training. Defending, maybe diving in on the tackle instead of standing up. A few things we can identify there we can improve on. But it's our first day out, and you're always going to have a rusty start. You haven't played well. We played a couple of challenge games, but obviously a championship game, you're going to be rusty. And as I say, at the end of the day, we're happy to come away with that point, I suppose.
Listen, well done on a fantastic performance. Definitely the highlight of the weekend for me covering games in terms of entertaining. It was definitely the highest entertainment value game of the weekend.
Oh yeah, it was entertaining, but it might seem entertaining to us in a dodgy third quarter. But yeah, I'm sure both sets of fans were entertained, and definitely any neutrals. So we were glad to put on a good show then for everybody today.
Well done.
Thanks very much.
And that, folks, is all we have time for today. Thank you to everybody who spoke to me. So many people, and such a long show as well today. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who's been engaging with us on social media. Of course, a lot of these interviews now available in little video snippets on our website, on Twitter, and we'd love to continue to keep that conversation rolling with you. If you'd like to see longer videos, they're just 30 seconds or 40 seconds out of the 2 or 3 minutes that we talk to these people. Do you want to see longer videos, or are they just the right bite-sized kind of chunks after a game? Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or any of the social medias, Instagram or Facebook as well, at Leitrim Daily. You'll get us for absolutely everything. This, of course, was episode 209, the Sports Roundup show, sponsored and in partnership with the local enterprise office in Leitrim. And I've been Breffney Early. It's been my absolute pleasure bringing you so many different reactions from across so many of the clubs in the county. We have hit a little milestone that I'm going to take a little bit of a pride in. Eslin were on the show today. It's the first time we've actually had Eslin in person after a game at a show, and they were the final club in the county. So delighted to have a full complement of all the clubs have been on the show at least once now at this stage. It's really important to us that we include everybody, not just the senior county champions, but if you're playing in junior football, we want to know about you as well here on the show. Anyway, I'm talking way too long today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to everybody for chatting to me. We'll be back on Friday with another sports preview of the third round of the Senior Football Championship and everything else that's happening across the county. Talk to you then.